control your mind, or it will control you. Right now, in this moment, your thoughts are either building you or breaking you. Your mind is either your greatest weapon or your most destructive enemy. The chaos you feel, the doubt you carry, the fear that keeps returning, none of it is random. It's the result of an undisciplined mind. But today, that ends. Today, you take back control. Today, you reprogram your thoughts, silence emotional chaos, and become mentally unbreakable. Chapter 1. Stop letting your thoughts wander. Your mind wanders by default. That's the first truth you must accept if you want any hope of controlling it. Left alone, your mind does not drift toward strength. It does not drift toward clarity. It does not drift toward confidence. Your mind drifts toward fear, toward insecurity, toward the path of least resistance. And you've seen this in your own life. Every time you sit still, every time you pause, every time the noise around you dies down, something happens inside you. The mental chaos begins. This is the empty room problem. Put a person in an empty room with nothing but silence, and their mind will create threats that aren't even there. Because an undirected mind must invent something to fill the vacuum. It will replay old failures. It will replay old conversations. It will replay every worst-case scenario it can find. Not because it's accurate, but because it's untrained. That's the key. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're untrained. And there's a big difference. You have a choice. You can let your thoughts wander wherever they want, or you can take control. But you cannot do both. And most people never realize they are losing this internal war. They think their anxiety is random. They think their fear is natural. They think their doubt is unavoidable. But the truth is brutally simple. They never learned to discipline their thinking. They never learned to take command. And because they never learned to take command, their mind rules them instead of the other way around. Direct your mind, or it directs you. I want you to hear that sentence again. Direct your mind, or it directs you. That's not a slogan. That's not a motivational quote. That is the operating manual for your entire life. Everything you want, everything you fear, everything you think you can or cannot do, it starts with your mental defaults. And if you don't reset those defaults, nothing changes. But how do you reset them? You start with repetition. That's the key. Repetition is not glamorous. Repetition is not exciting. But repetition is how the brain decides what matters. Think about elite athletes. They repeat the same movements hundreds of thousands of times. Not because they enjoy the monotony, but because repetition builds identity. When a basketball player practices a free throw thousands of times, he's not just training his muscles. He's training his mind to expect success. He's training his thoughts to follow a certain path automatically. That's why when the pressure hits, he doesn't collapse. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't wander mentally. His mind has been conditioned to respond with precision. Your life works the same way. You repeat the same thoughts every day. You repeat the same emotional patterns every day. And over time, those patterns become your identity. If you repeat fear, fear becomes your identity. If you repeat doubt, doubt becomes your identity. If you repeat procrastination, procrastination becomes your identity. So ask yourself, what have you been rehearsing? Because whether you realize it or not, you've been practicing something. This is where discipline comes in. It's not about feeling confident. It's about training confidence. It's not about eliminating fear. It's about overriding fear. It's not about trying to be positive. It's about deliberately choosing the thoughts that build you instead of destroy you. You have a choice. You always have a choice. You can choose which mental loop to repeat. Let's break this down into something practical. Every morning, your mind wakes up before you do. Before you even open your eyes, it's already replaying yesterday's worries. It's replaying the deadlines, the conversations you regret, the mistakes you made, the fears you haven't addressed. And if you don't step in immediately, those wandering thoughts take control of your emotional state for the entire day. That's why your first job each morning is not checking your phone. It's not scrolling through other people's lives. Your first job is directing your first thought. That is your mental warm-up. That is your first rep, and you don't need their permission. You don't need the world to be perfect. You don't need the conditions to align. You choose the thought. You choose the direction. You say to yourself, plain and simple, I am in control. I command my mind. I decide how today goes. Direct your mind, or it directs you. Now, let's talk about wandering thoughts throughout the day. You know this pattern well. You're working, you're focused, and suddenly your mind jumps to something irrelevant. A fear, a memory, a distraction, then another thought, then another. Before you know it, 20 minutes are gone and you didn't even notice the drift. That drift is not harmless. That drift is not small. That drift is the enemy, because the direction of your attention becomes the direction of your life. So how do you stop the drift? You interrupt it. Immediately. The moment you notice your thoughts wandering into fear or insecurity, say out loud, or in your head if you must, stop. Not because you're trying to suppress the thought, but because you are reasserting control. You're reminding yourself who the commander is. Your thoughts are not the boss. You are. And that's the key. Then you redirect. You choose a replacement thought. Something intentional. Something aligned with who you want to become. It could be a simple phrase, stay focused. Stay disciplined. Stay sharp. These phrases are not cliches. They are mental anchors. They pull your mind back into alignment. And every time you do this, you're strengthening the muscle of attention. Over time, this becomes natural. Just like an athlete's automatic movement. Just like a pianist's automatic reflex. Your mind stops drifting because you have trained it not to wander. You have taught it precision. And once you teach your mind precision, everything in your life sharpens. Decision-making sharpens. Emotional control sharpens. Discipline sharpens. Because here's the ultimate truth. You cannot build a powerful life with a wandering mind. You cannot stay consistent with a wandering mind. You cannot reach your potential with a wandering mind. Mental drift is the enemy of greatness. Mental drift is the enemy of discipline. Mental drift is the enemy of the life you say you want. So you must take command. You must choose the thoughts you repeat. You must train your mind to stay on target. And the moment you do, everything changes. Anxiety weakens. Clarity increases. Strength grows. You stop reacting. You start directing. You stop running. You start leading. And you finally experience what it feels like to be in control of yourself. Direct your mind, or it directs you. That's the law. That's the system. That's the foundation for everything that comes next. You've taken the first step. You've stopped pretending your thoughts are random and started seeing them for what they are: habits, patterns, rehearsals. And now you're learning to take control. And now that you've begun mastering your wandering thoughts, it's time to face the next enemy, the one that destroys more dreams than fear, the myth of motivation. Chapter 2. You don't have a motivation problem. You have a discipline problem. You don't have a motivation problem. You have a discipline problem. And until you understand the difference, nothing in your life will change. People keep waiting for motivation as if it's some magical fuel that suddenly transforms them into the person they want to be. But motivation is unreliable. Motivation is emotional. Motivation is inconsistent. You cannot build a strong life on something that disappears the second you feel tired, irritated, lonely, or bored. Think back to your own life. Think about every time you said, "I'll start when I feel ready." Did you start? Really think about it. How many goals have you postponed because you were waiting for inspiration? How many dreams stayed on paper because you didn't feel motivated? How many times did you say, tomorrow, knowing full well you weren't going to follow through? That pattern is not a motivation issue. That is a discipline issue. You have a choice, and you've been choosing to wait. That's the key. You've been choosing emotion over action, comfort over progress, wishes over work, and you probably didn't even realize you were doing it. Because society sells you this lie that motivation is everything. Find your passion. Wait for the spark. Discover your fire. But here's the truth. People who rely on motivation never build anything lasting. Look at the people who actually achieve something: athletes, entrepreneurs, soldiers, creators. Do you think they always feel motivated? Do you think they wake up every day with fire in their chest? They wake up and do the work anyway, because they understand that motivation fades. Discipline rewires. And that single sentence separates success from stagnation. Let's break this down with something real. Imagine two people who both want to get in shape. Person A waits for motivation. Person B decides to build discipline. Person A goes to the gym when they feel excited. But the second they feel tired, stressed, or uninterested, they skip. And every skipped day reinforces the identity of someone who fails to follow through. Person B, on the other hand, decides the gym is not optional. They show up whether they're tired or energized, whether they feel like going or not. And every completed workout, especially the ones done without motivation, rewires their identity. They start seeing themselves as someone who follows through. Someone who doesn't break promises to themselves. Someone who does what needs to be done. And slowly they transform. Not because of motivation, but because of discipline. This pattern applies to every area of life. Writing a book, building a business, studying for a new skill, saving money, improving your relationships. Nothing grows because of motivation. Everything grows because of discipline. Everything grows because you choose to act when your feelings tell you not to. That's the key. It's not about talent. It's not about luck. It's not about feeling inspired. It's about showing up. You have a choice. You always have a choice. You can obey your emotions, or you can obey your standards. And the truth is brutal. Your emotions have been running your life. You feel overwhelmed, so you quit. You feel bored, so you procrastinate. You feel tired, so you stop. But listen carefully. Your feelings are not instructions. Your feelings are not commandments. They are impulses. And you don't need their permission. You don't need the feeling of motivation to start. You need the decision to start. And you don't need the feeling of motivation to finish. You need the discipline to finish. Let me give you an example that's brutally simple. Consider the military. Soldiers don't get to say, "I don't feel motivated today." They act because action is required. They follow through because the standard demands it. They aren't waiting for a spark. They're operating from discipline. And that discipline becomes identity. And that identity becomes power. You can train yourself the same way. You can choose discipline over emotion. And once you do, your entire identity begins to shift. Every action you complete without motivation strengthens your mental control. Every task you finish when you don't feel like it rewires your brain. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you prove to yourself that you are capable of becoming the person you want to be. Motivation fades. Discipline rewires. Now let's talk about the real-world behavior you need to start implementing today. The first rule is simple. Stop asking yourself how you feel. That question has been destroying your progress for years. Do I feel like working? Do I feel like studying? Do I feel like exercising? That question is poison. Replace it with a much stronger one. What did I commit to? That's the key. Commitments over feelings. Standards over mood. The second rule, shrink the task until there is zero resistance. Not zero difficulty, zero resistance. If you can't commit to going to the gym for an hour, commit to 10 minutes. If you can't commit to writing a full chapter, commit to writing one paragraph. If you can't commit to reading 20 pages, commit to reading 2. Discipline builds from consistency, not intensity. You have a choice. Make it possible for yourself to follow through, or keep creating tasks so big that quitting feels inevitable. Third rule, reward the action, not the feeling. Stop waiting to feel proud. Feel proud because you acted. Feel proud because you showed up. Feel proud because you didn't negotiate with your weakness. Identity grows from action. That's the key. Not emotion. Action. And here's the part nobody wants to hear. Discipline feels terrible in the beginning. Your brain will resist it. Your emotions will fight you. Your old habits will scream for comfort. But that discomfort is the proof that you're changing. The old you is dying. The new you is emerging. And that's exactly what you want. Because if you're comfortable, you're not growing. If you're comfortable, you're losing. If you're comfortable, you're staying the same. Motivation fades. Discipline rewires. And once the rewiring begins, everything in your life shifts. You stop being controlled by impulse. You stop being controlled by emotion. You stop being controlled by the ups and downs of your mood. You start making decisions based on who you want to become, not who you've been. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to respect yourself. You begin to feel the power of self-command. And that is how you take control of your mind. Not by waiting for a feeling. Not by waiting for motivation. But by building discipline, day by day, action by action, rep by rep. You don't have a motivation problem. You have a discipline problem. And once you fix that, the world opens for you. Now that you understand the power of discipline over emotion, it's time to tackle the next enemy, reactivity. Chapter 3. Replace emotional reactivity with mental precision. You lose yourself every time you react without thinking. That's the first truth you need to accept. Because emotional reactivity isn't just a bad habit. Emotional reactivity is self-loss. You hand over your power. You hand over your direction. You hand over your control to the smallest trigger in your environment. And that's why your life feels chaotic. Not because the world is out of control, but because your reactions are. Think about how easily you get derailed. A driver cuts you off in traffic. A stranger posts a rude comment. Your boss sends a last-minute message. Your plans change unexpectedly. And suddenly your entire inner world collapses into irritation, frustration, anger, or anxiety. You were fine 1 minute. You were grounded. You were focused. And then one tiny external event hijacked your entire emotional state. That is the problem. Not the traffic. Not the comment. Not the inconvenience. The problem is that your emotions are driving the car, not you. The problem is that your reactions are automatic. And when your reactions are automatic, you are not living with intention. You are living on autopilot. You have a choice, but you aren't choosing. You're just reacting. That's the key. Reactivity is the enemy of control. And you cannot be mentally strong if you cannot control your reactions. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine someone criticizes you, harshly, unfairly, or publicly. A reactive mind fires instantly. They're wrong. They don't understand me. I need to defend myself. I need to explain. I need to respond. And before you even process what was said, you're already emotionally entangled. You're already in fight mode. You're already losing control. Now imagine the opposite reaction. You pause. You take one breath. You don't respond immediately. You don't rush to prove anything. You don't let your emotions take the wheel. You evaluate. You observe. You choose your next move from a place of clarity instead of chaos. That single moment of pause is the difference between emotional weakness and emotional strength. Because every reaction without thought is a surrender of power. Every reaction without intention is a step backward. This is why you must train mental precision. Precision is not coldness. Precision is not detachment. Precision is self-command. Precision is choosing the best response instead of the fastest one. Precision is the ability to pause, analyze, and act with purpose. And if you want to become mentally unshakable, you must learn the three-step process that separates weak minds from strong ones. The process is simple: pause, label, choose. This is your new mental operating system. This is the tool that will change the way you interact with everything in your life. Let's break it down. Step 1. Pause. This is the moment of interruption. The moment you feel a spike of anger, fear, irritation, embarrassment, anything, you stop. Even for half a second. You breathe. You don't speak yet. You don't text back. You don't lash out. You do nothing but pause. Because the pause is where your power returns. The pause is the break in the automatic pattern. The pause is the space where emotional reactivity loses its grip. You have a choice. And the pause gives you that choice. Step 2. Label. This is where you identify the emotion. Not to suppress it. Not to judge it. But to understand it. I'm angry. I'm anxious. I feel disrespected. I feel embarrassed. When you label the emotion, you separate yourself from it. It becomes something you are experiencing, not something you are drowning in. That's the key. When you can name an emotion, it loses some of its power. It stops controlling you. It becomes data instead of danger. You don't need their permission to acknowledge what you feel. You only need honesty. Step 3. Choose. This is where mental precision becomes real. This is the decisive moment. You ask yourself, what is the best response here? Not the fastest. Not the loudest. The best. And then you choose deliberately. Maybe you walk away. Maybe you speak calmly. Maybe you set a boundary. Maybe you do nothing at all. The point is simple. You choose instead of reacting. React less. Choose more. React less. Choose more. React less. Choose more. Drill this into your mind until it becomes your default state. Because when you stop reacting, you stop living life on defense. You start living life on offense. You start directing your energy instead of wasting it. You conserve mental strength instead of bleeding it out through impulsive responses. You protect your focus instead of letting small moments ruin your entire day. Think of how many times you've lost hours, or even days, because you reacted emotionally. One argument destroyed your entire mood. One comment ruined your confidence. One unexpected problem threw off your whole plan. Not because the problem was that big, but because the reaction was. Emotional reactivity makes small issues feel enormous. Mental precision makes enormous issues feel manageable. Let me give you 2 real-world patterns to notice. Pattern 1. Overreaction to inconvenience. A delay. A mistake. A disruption. These aren't crises. They're normal parts of life. But a reactive mind treats them like emergencies. And every time you overreact, you reinforce the identity of someone who is easily thrown off center. Pattern 2. Overattachment to interpretation. Someone doesn't text back. Someone speaks sharply. Someone forgets something. And suddenly your mind builds a story. They don't care about me. They're disrespecting me. They're ignoring me. But those are interpretations, not facts. And reacting to interpretations instead of reality is the fastest way to lose control. This is why mental precision matters. It saves you from your own assumptions. It saves you from your own emotional impulses. And it gives you the clarity to act instead of overreacting. React less. Choose more. Now, let's talk about what you must begin doing today. First, practice the pause. Start small. When someone annoys you, pause. When something doesn't go your way, pause. When you feel the surge of anger, pause. Train that half-second of interruption until it becomes second nature. Second, label the emotion honestly. Don't hide from it. Don't pretend you're calm when you're not. Labeling is not weakness. Labeling is accuracy, precision, control. Third, choose your response. Write it down if you must. Visualize it if you must. Ask yourself, what would the disciplined version of me do right now? That's the question that will reshape your reactions. That's the key. That's the doorway into self-mastery. Because here's the truth you must accept. It's not about emotional perfection. It's about emotional discipline. It's not about never feeling anything. It's about not letting those feelings run your life. You have a choice. You always have a choice. And when you choose precision, you choose strength. React less. Choose more. And once you start choosing more, your entire mind begins to shift. You don't get dragged down as easily. You don't get thrown off course. You don't lose yourself in small moments that once ruined your whole day. You rise above. You become the observer, the strategist, the one in control. You reclaim your mind. And when you reclaim your mind, everything else becomes manageable. You've learned how to stop reacting. Now it's time to protect the very resource that shapes your destiny, your attention. Chapter 4. Your attention is your most valuable currency. Your attention is the most valuable currency you own. Not your money, not your time, not your talent, your attention. Because whatever you give your attention to grows. Whatever you feed with your focus becomes your identity. That's the key. And most people spend their lives bankrupt because they spend their attention on everything that weakens them. You have a choice. Every day, every hour, every minute, you choose where your attention goes. You choose what gets your energy. You choose what gets your mind. And the frightening truth is this: most people don't choose anything. They drift. They react. They get hijacked by noise, by distraction, by impulses they don't control. Then they wonder why they feel lost. They wonder why they feel weak. They wonder why they feel like they're living someone else's life. You don't need anyone's permission to reclaim your attention. No one owns your mind unless you hand it over. And that's exactly what most people do. They hand it over freely. They hand it over to social media. They hand it over to gossip. They hand it over to comparison. They hand it over to strangers who don't care about them and never will. Attention shapes identity. Remember that. What you focus on repeatedly becomes who you are. If you focus on fear, you become fearful. If you focus on doubt, you become hesitant. If you focus on excuses, you build a life made of excuses. But if you focus on discipline, you become disciplined. If you focus on growth, you become someone who grows. If you focus on action, you become unstoppable. That's the key. This chapter is about taking your attention back, piece by piece, choice by choice. Because you have a choice. And your life will change the moment you start choosing intentionally. Let's start with your attention leaks. You know exactly what they are. The small holes in your day where your focus drains away without resistance. The moments where you reach for your phone because you're bored, anxious, or avoiding reality. The moments where one notification pulls you into a 45-minute spiral you didn't plan and didn't need. The moments where a tiny trigger, someone's comment, someone's post, someone's success, sends you into comparison mode, insecurity mode, or overthinking mode. These attention leaks steal more from you than you realize. Not just time, but identity. Every distraction, repeated enough times, rewires your mind into a distracted mind. Every comparison, repeated enough times, rewires your identity into someone who doubts themselves. Every moment you focus on noise, you weaken your ability to focus on what matters. And I'll tell you something most people don't want to admit. Your future depends on your ability to control your attention. Your peace depends on it. Your productivity depends on it. Your self-respect depends on it. And yes, your success depends on it. That's why the mantra of this chapter is simple and non-negotiable. Guard your attention like your life depends on it, because it does. Your attention is your life. Your life is made of moments. And your moments are defined by what you focus on. When you guard your attention, you guard your future. When you guard your attention, you guard your potential. When you guard your attention, you guard your power. Now let's get practical. Because awareness alone doesn't change anything. Action does. Discipline does. And you have a choice. Step 1. Identify your top 3 attention leaks. Be brutally honest. For most people, it's social media, comparison, and emotional overthinking. For others, it's notifications, overconsumption of entertainment, or staying plugged into other people's drama. Identify the leaks. Name them. That's the key, because you cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. Step 2. Set boundaries that hurt a little. Discipline isn't supposed to feel comfortable. It's supposed to feel corrective. Set hard limits. Remove apps from your home screen. Turn off non-essential notifications. Create 2 no-phone zones in your day, morning and night. Pick 1 hour a day where you allow 0 digital input. These boundaries will feel intense at first. But that's how you know they're working. You're breaking a habit loop. You're rewiring your mind. Guard your attention like your life depends on it, because it does. Step 3. Replace consumption with intention. A distracted mind is a weak mind. A focused mind is a dangerous one. You must choose what your mind consumes. You have a choice. Read instead of scroll. Learn instead of compare. Think instead of escape. Act instead of react. Each replacement builds discipline. Each replacement strengthens your mental muscle. This is not about perfection. It's about repetition. It's about choosing the stronger option again and again until it becomes your default. Step 4. Practice microfocus. People think they need huge blocks of time to make progress. They don't. They need disciplined blocks of attention. 10 minutes of real focus beats an hour of distracted pretending. That's the key. Choose one task. Set a timer. Eliminate all noise. Do the work. Nothing else. No switching. No checking. No reacting. Just focus. When you do this consistently, you build something rare: mental precision. The ability to aim your attention like a weapon. The ability to hold your mind steady even when the world is chaotic. The ability to choose your focus instead of surrendering it. And that's when your identity shifts. That's when you stop being someone who reacts and start being someone who creates. That's when you stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. That's when you stop leaking your potential and start directing it. Because hear this clearly, your attention determines your destiny. Not luck. Not talent. Not motivation. Attention. What you repeatedly give your mind to becomes your life. Guard your attention like your life depends on it, because it does. Guard your attention like your future depends on it, because it does. Guard your attention like your identity depends on it, because it does. And if you think you're the exception, you're not. No one is disciplined by accident. No one is focused by accident. No one becomes strong by accident. Strength is created through attention. Identity is created through attention. Discipline is created through attention. You have a choice. You can keep letting the world pull your focus in 1,000 useless directions. Or you can take ownership of the one thing that determines everything: your attention. Take it back. Guard it fiercely. Treat it like the currency that builds your entire life. Because once you master your attention, once you control what your mind locks onto, you become unstoppable. You become clear. You become disciplined. You become powerful. And you stop living a life that feels scattered, fragmented, and chaotic. Your attention is your anchor. Your attention is your weapon. Your attention is your foundation. You've learned how to protect it. Now it's time to take the next step. If attention is the currency of your life, then energy is the fuel behind how you spend it. You guarded your attention. Now let's strengthen the force that drives it. Chapter 5. Break the habit of negative self-talk. You cannot outgrow a mind that attacks you. Hear that clearly. You cannot outgrow a mind that tears you down. You cannot build a disciplined life on top of a foundation of self-hatred. That's the key. Because negative self-talk isn't just a bad habit. It's a slow internal corrosion that eats away at your confidence, your direction, and your power. And here's the truth most people never face. Most of your negative self-talk isn't even yours. You inherited it. From parents. From teachers. From people who projected their insecurity onto you. From environments where you were punished for trying, punished for failing, punished for standing out. You didn't choose those voices. But you repeat them. And every repetition strengthens them. Every repetition keeps you stuck. You have a choice. You can keep carrying those old voices like chains on your back, or you can break the pattern. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You only need discipline. The discipline to stop letting the internal bully run your life. Let's call it what it is, the internal bully. The voice that tells you you're not good enough. The voice that tells you you always fail. The voice that tells you you don't have what it takes. The voice that kicks you when you're down and mocks you when you try to get up. It's harsh. It's loud. And it feels like truth because it's familiar. But familiarity is not truth. Repetition is not truth. Fear is not truth. You cannot outgrow a mind that attacks you. And you cannot build discipline on top of self-destruction. It's not about perfection. It's about discipline. Discipline in how you speak to yourself. Discipline in how you redirect your thoughts. Discipline in how you choose your identity instead of recycling old wounds. Most people try to fight negative self-talk. They resist it. They argue with it. They try to silence it. But resisting a thought gives it more power. Fighting it strengthens the loop. That's why the strategy isn't resistance, it's replacement. You don't battle the internal bully. You starve it. You override it. That's the key. Replace, not resist. Replace, not argue. Replace, not negotiate. When the voice says, "You always mess things up," you replace it with, "I'm learning. I'm improving. I'm building discipline." When the voice says, "You're not capable," you replace it with, "I build capability through action. Every day." When the voice says, "You don't deserve anything good," you replace it with, "I create my worth through my choices." This is identity work. This is cognitive discipline. This is you reclaiming the steering wheel of your mind. You have a choice. You get to decide which voice you feed. You get to decide which identity you reinforce. And every single replacement is a vote for the person you want to become. But here's the part most people never hear. Negative self-talk is not an emotional problem. It's a discipline problem. It's not about your flaws. It's about your discipline. The discipline to break the loop. The discipline to interrupt the narrative. The discipline to speak to yourself like someone you're responsible for. That's the key. So let's break this down into practical, repeatable steps. No fluff. No weakness. Just action. Step 1. Identify your core negative scripts. Most people don't even know what their internal bully keeps repeating. They feel bad, but they don't analyze the thoughts. They feel insecure, but they don't identify the script. Your job is to expose the loop. Write down the 3 negative phrases your mind uses against you the most. Might be, I'm not enough. I always fail. I can't change. No one cares about what I do. Why even try? These thoughts feel automatic because they've been repeated for years. But remember, automatic does not mean accurate. Automatic means unchallenged. And you have a choice to challenge it now. Step 2. Create a replacement script for each one. Not vague affirmations. Not cheesy slogans. Identity statements. Present tense. Because your mind believes what you repeat. Replace, I always fail, with, I keep showing up. That's who I am now. Replace, I can't do this, with, I learn by doing. Discipline builds my ability. Replace, nothing ever works out for me, with, things work when I work. And I work. Every replacement is a rewire. Every replacement is a small identity shift. You cannot outgrow a mind that attacks you, but you can train a mind that supports you. Step 3. Interrupt the loop in real time. This is where the transformation happens. When the negative voice shows up, and you pause. You don't resist. You don't spiral. You don't react emotionally. You insert discipline into the moment. You catch the thought. You label it. Old script. Old identity. Not me. Then you insert the replacement statement. Immediately. No delay. No hesitation. That's the key. You override the loop before it takes root. This is mental conditioning. This is cognitive strength training. This is identity discipline in action. Step 4. Speak to yourself like someone you're building, not someone you're breaking. You are not the enemy. You are the project. And you cannot build a powerful life if you destroy yourself with your own voice. Your self-talk must become a tool, not a weapon. A reinforcement, not a punishment. A guide, not a bully. Talk to yourself with clarity. Talk to yourself with firmness. Talk to yourself with respect. Discipline is respect. Self-talk is discipline. Because here's the truth. You're not struggling because you're weak. You're struggling because the voice in your head was trained to sabotage you. But you have a choice to retrain it now. You cannot outgrow a mind that attacks you. So stop letting it. Step 5. Build a daily ritual for mental rewiring. Identity shifts come from repetition. That's the key. Every morning, repeat your replacement statements out loud. Every night, write down one moment where you caught the negative voice and redirected it. Track your rewiring. Track your discipline. Track your growth. You don't need their permission to build a new identity. You don't need anyone's approval to outgrow your old self. This is your mind, your life, your discipline. And here's the final truth of this chapter. Your life cannot rise higher than the voice inside your head. If the voice attacks you, your life shrinks. If the voice supports you, your life expands. You have a choice. Break the habit. Replace the loop. Rewire the identity. Build the mind you deserve. You cannot outgrow a mind that attacks you. So build a mind that fights for you, not against you. You've taken ownership of your inner voice. Now it's time to take ownership of the people around you, because your environment can build you or break you. You strengthened your inner voice. Now let's strengthen your outer circle. Chapter 6. Emotional chaos is a sign of mental neglect. Emotional chaos doesn't come out of nowhere. It doesn't just happen to you. It's not random. It's not mysterious. It's not fate. Emotional chaos is a signal. Emotional chaos is a symptom. Emotional chaos is the consequence of mental neglect. What you don't manage, manages you. That's the key. And most people live their entire lives managed by emotions they never inspected, never questioned, never took responsibility for. You have a choice. You can keep living reactively, letting your emotions hijack your day, your decisions, and your identity. Or you can take ownership of the one thing that shapes your entire existence, your inner world. Emotional chaos is not a personality trait. It's not a curse. It's the outcome of ignoring boundaries, ignoring priorities, and ignoring the quiet alarms going off inside you. Let's be brutally honest. Most emotional storms start long before the explosion. People think their anger, their sadness, their anxiety came from one trigger, one comment, one problem, one inconvenience. But that's not the truth. The truth is simple. The explosion is the final stage of a long buildup of neglect. You didn't set boundaries. You didn't address the real issue. You didn't clarify what you needed. You avoided the hard conversation. You abandoned your routines. You numbed your stress instead of confronting it. And every act of neglect compounds. Every avoidance builds pressure. Every dismissed feeling becomes a weight you carry subconsciously. Until one small moment, one rude comment, one unexpected setback, pushes the entire structure over. And you call it chaos. But it wasn't chaos. It was neglect. And you have a choice to stop the cycle. What you don't manage, manages you. Emotional chaos thrives in the absence of boundaries. When you don't protect your time, your mind gets scattered. When you don't protect your energy, your emotions get drained. When you don't protect your priorities, your life becomes disorganized and reactive. People who live in emotional chaos almost always have unclear boundaries. They say yes when they should say no. They tolerate disrespect. They allow interruptions. They let people dump problems onto them. They let their schedule be hijacked. They let their attention be stolen. And then they wonder why they feel mentally overloaded and emotionally unstable. You don't need their permission to set boundaries. You don't need their approval to protect your peace. You don't need consensus to prioritize your mental health. Boundaries are not about being harsh. They're about being disciplined. It's not about being rude. It's about being intentional. Because what you don't manage, manages you. But the second source of emotional chaos is ignored priorities. When your life has no clear structure, your mind tries to fill the void with worry. When your priorities are undefined, everything feels urgent and nothing feels manageable. You wake up already overwhelmed. You go through the day putting out fires. You go to bed feeling unfinished and frustrated. Chaos is the default state of an unled mind. And here's the harsh truth. If you don't lead your mind, your emotions will. You have a choice. Take the wheel or get dragged. So how do you manage it? How do you regain control? How do you replace chaos with clarity? You build discipline around awareness. You build discipline around mental checking. You build discipline around intentional reflection. Awareness precedes control. That's the key. You cannot control what you refuse to examine. You cannot change what you won't acknowledge. You cannot guide what you never stop to understand. And this is where most people fail. They don't perform mental audits. They don't check in with themselves. They don't pause to ask the right questions. They don't evaluate how they truly feel or why. They don't look at the patterns. They don't track their emotional triggers. They don't observe their thought loops. And without awareness, chaos wins. So here's the transformation strategy. Simple, repeatable, life-altering. The morning mental audit. Every morning, you take 3 minutes. Not 30. Not 15. 3. And you ask yourself 3 direct questions. What's the emotional residue I'm carrying from yesterday? Because emotions do not reset overnight. If you don't process them, they follow you into the next day. What are my top 3 priorities today? Not 10. Not 7. 3. Your mind needs direction. Direction eliminates emotional noise. Where am I likely to get triggered today? Anticipation is preparation. Preparation is control. And control prevents chaos. That's the key. When you do this, you lead your emotions before they lead you. You set the tone before the day sets it for you. You take responsibility before your environment tries to claim ownership over your mood. What you don't manage, manages you. The nightly mental audit. At night, you close the loop. You strengthen the discipline. You pull everything back into alignment. 3 minutes. 3 questions. What triggered me today and why? Not who, but focus on the root, not the blame. Did I honor my priorities or get hijacked by distractions? That's accountability. That's ownership. You have a choice to correct the pattern tomorrow. What boundary did I fail to enforce? Because every emotional storm has a boundary behind it, a boundary you didn't set, didn't communicate, or didn't uphold. Awareness precedes control. That's the key. This system is simple. It's structured. It's powerful. And most importantly, it breaks the cycle of emotional chaos. It rewires your relationship with your feelings. It trains your mind to lead instead of react. It forces you to confront the truth instead of hiding behind distractions. And if you commit to it, even for a week, you'll realize something life-changing. Your emotions were never the enemy. Your neglect was. Your feelings weren't the problem. Your lack of discipline was. It's not about being overwhelmed. It's about being unstructured. It's not about being too emotional. It's about avoiding internal maintenance. You have a choice. Clean the mental space or let it collapse. Manage the emotions or let them manage you. Lead the mind or let chaos take the wheel. What you don't manage, manages you. Every time. Without exception. And here's the deepest truth of this chapter. Emotional chaos is a warning sign. A flashing signal. A call for discipline. It's your mind saying, lead me. It's your life demanding order. It's your future asking for clarity. Your emotional storms don't define you. But your discipline does. Your emotional triggers don't limit you. But your willingness to manage them determines everything. This entire audiobook is about control, and this chapter is the heart of that control. If you don't manage your inner world, nothing external will fix it. If you don't address the real causes, no surface-level solutions will help. If you don't take responsibility, chaos will keep winning. But now you know better. Now you see the pattern. Now you understand the truth. You've confronted the chaos. Now it's time to confront the noise. Let's go deeper. You took responsibility for your emotions. Now take responsibility for your environment. Chapter 7. Your environment is programming you. Your environment is programming you. Every day. Every hour. Every moment. And here's the truth most people refuse to accept. Nothing in your life is neutral. Nothing. Everything around you is either strengthening your mind or weakening it. Everything is either sharpening you or dulling you. Everything is either pulling you forward or dragging you backward. That's the key. Your environment is not passive. Your environment is not background noise. Your environment is the invisible architect of your identity. And you have a choice. Stay in an environment that keeps you small, or build an environment that forces you to rise. If you stay in the same environment, you stay the same. No matter how badly you want to change. No matter how much discipline you build. No matter how strong your intentions are. Because environment shapes behavior. Environment shapes thoughts. Environment shapes responses. Environment shapes beliefs. This is not opinion. This is psychology. This is conditioning. This is reality. And yet, people try to transform themselves without transforming their surroundings. They try to grow while staying attached to the same distractions, the same negativity, the same low standards energy that sabotages them. And they wonder why progress feels impossible. They wonder why discipline fades. They wonder why motivation disappears. They wonder why they fall back into old patterns. But the answer is simple. You're breathing the same air that built your old identity. You're walking the same paths that reinforced your old habits. You're surrounded by the same patterns that shaped your old beliefs. If you stay in the same environment, you stay the same. That's the key. You can't out-discipline a toxic environment. You can't out-motivate a draining environment. You can't outgrow an environment built for your old self. Let's break it down into the 3 forces that shape your mental programming: people, places, and patterns. 1. People, the strongest programmers in your life. The people around you are not neutral. They are data streams. They inject beliefs into your mind through every conversation, every complaint, every expectation, every behavior. Humans are wired to mimic the emotional and mental states of those around them. Whether you notice it or not, your mind is being shaped by proximity. Spend time around people who panic, and you learn to panic. Spend time around people who complain, and you learn to complain. Spend time around people who minimize themselves, and you start shrinking too. Environment is contagious. That's the key. If you're surrounded by people who don't dream, you'll stop dreaming. If you're surrounded by people who don't work, you'll stop working. If you're surrounded by people who settle, you'll settle. Because energy spreads. Mindsets spread. Standards spread. And the people closest to you determine what becomes normal to you. Your environment normalizes your behavior. It normalizes your expectations. It normalizes your limits. You have a choice. Stay close to people who drain you, or move closer to people who demand more from you. Stay tied to people who hold you back, or connect with people who force you to level up. Stay in circles that make excuses, or join circles that take ownership. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You don't need to explain your growth. You have the right to protect your mind. You have the right to change your circle. You have the right to choose who gets access to your mental energy. Because if you stay in the same environment, you stay the same. 2. Places, the physical cues that shape your mindset. Your physical surroundings shape your behavior instinctively. A cluttered room breeds a cluttered mind. A chaotic home breeds a chaotic emotional state. A noisy environment breeds a noisy internal world. The places you spend your time are constantly giving your mind instructions. A bed in the same room as your workspace confuses your brain. A messy desk lowers your productivity. A noisy environment fractures your attention. You think you're failing because you lack motivation. But the truth is simpler. Your environment is training you to fail. Want more discipline? Create a disciplined space. Want more focus? Create a focused space. Want more clarity? Create a clear space. You have a choice. Your environment is malleable. It's changeable. It's adjustable. But most people never rearrange it because they underestimate its power. They don't see the connection between their surroundings and their behavior. But you're not undisciplined. You're unstructured. You're not lazy. You're overstimulated. You're not unfocused. You're surrounded by distractions. It's not about your flaws. It's about your discipline. Your discipline in shaping the places that shape you. Because if you stay in the same environment, you stay the same. 3. Patterns, the invisible loops controlling your mind. Your daily patterns are part of your environment. They program you just as much as the people and places around you. And most of your patterns were not chosen consciously. They were inherited. They were absorbed. They were repeated until they became the default. The time you wake up, the first thing you look at in the morning, the tone of your self-talk, the way you respond to stress, the habits you fall back into when tired, all of these are environmental loops. And you have a choice to break or reinforce them. Scroll first thing in the morning? You start your day in chaos. Complain before taking action? You train your mind to avoid responsibility. Numb your anxiety instead of confronting it? You program avoidance into your identity. Your patterns are your environment. And if you don't rewrite them, they'll keep writing your story for you. You want a different life? Build different patterns. You want a stronger mind? Build stronger routines. You want a new identity? Repeat new behaviors until they become automatic. Because repeating a behavior rewires identity. And repeating an environment reinforces identity. And no level of ambition can override an environment built on old patterns. If you stay in the same environment, you stay the same. How to take control of your environment. Here's the transformation. Here's the real work. Step 1. Remove the people who drain your ambition. Step 2. Rearrange your space to support your discipline. Step 3. Rewrite the patterns that shaped your old identity. This isn't easy. It requires courage. It requires honesty. It requires responsibility. But you have a choice, and that choice determines everything. You don't need their permission to change your environment. You don't need approval to protect your peace. You don't need validation to evolve. Your environment has been programming you. Now you program your environment. Because nothing in your life is neutral. Everything is shaping you. Everything is influencing you. Everything is rewiring you. And now you get to decide how you are shaped. You've taken control of your environment. Now it's time to take control of your energy. You redesigned your surroundings. Now let's master your output. Chapter 8. Stop negotiating with your weaknesses. You know exactly why you're stuck. You know exactly why progress feels slow. It's not fate. It's not bad luck. It's not a lack of motivation. You're negotiating with your weaknesses. That's the key. Every time you tell yourself, "I'll do it later," you negotiate. Every time you say, "I don't feel like it," you negotiate. Every time you wait for a better mood, a better moment, a better burst of energy, you negotiate. And negotiation kills progress. Read that again. Negotiation kills progress. You have a choice. Keep negotiating with the softer parts of yourself, or build the identity of someone who executes regardless of mood. Someone who acts without waiting. Someone who moves without asking. Someone who doesn't delay. Because winners don't negotiate with their weaknesses, they override them. The average person has two lives running in their mind. The life they want, and the voice that sabotages it. The voice that whispers, "Later." The voice that whispers, "Tomorrow." The voice that whispers, "You deserve a break." That voice is your weakness. That voice is your inner negotiator. And every time you listen to it, you teach your mind a dangerous lesson. Your feelings outrank your identity. But winners know the truth. Identity is stronger than emotion. That's the key. It's not about feeling ready. It's about being the person who acts even when they're not. It's not about removing weakness. It's about refusing to negotiate with it. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline. You have a choice. Surrender to the feeling or submit to the identity. The mental dialogue before failure. Let's walk into the moment before procrastination. The moment where most people lose. It happens fast, but it's predictable. You say, "I should get up." Your weakness says, 5 more minutes. You say, "I should start the task." Your weakness says, "Let me check my phone first." You say, "I need to finish today." Your weakness says, "You're tired. You can do it tomorrow." This is the real battlefield. This is the invisible war. And this is where most of your life has been decided, not by actions, but by negotiations. The tiny, quiet negotiations that look insignificant but shape everything. And the truth? Every negotiation reinforces one identity. The identity of your strength. Or the identity of your weakness. Every time you delay, you confirm weakness. Every time you obey emotion, you confirm weakness. Every time you wait for the right feeling, you confirm weakness. You're not losing because you're incapable. You're losing because you're negotiating. Stop negotiating. Start executing. Identity over feelings. Here's what separates winners from the world. They act from identity, not emotion. They don't ask, "How do I feel?" They ask, "Who am I?" That's the key. When your identity is strong, your feelings lose power. When your identity is dominant, your excuses die. When your identity leads, your mind follows. If your identity is, "I am disciplined," then the emotion, "I don't feel like it," becomes irrelevant. If your identity is, "I finish what I start," then the feeling, "I'm tired," has no authority. If your identity is, "I build daily," then the excuse, "I'm not motivated," gets no seat at the table. You don't need to feel strong to act strong. You need to decide who you are. And here's the truth you've ignored for years. Your identity is created through repetition, not intention, not desire, not motivation. Repetition. You become what you repeatedly do. You become what you repeatedly tolerate. You become what you repeatedly negotiate. Stop negotiating. Start executing. The emotional trap that keeps you weak. Weakness always disguises itself as compassion. Weakness says, "Be gentle on yourself." Weakness says, "You've had a long day." Weakness says, "You deserve a break." But weakness isn't compassionate. Weakness is manipulative. Weakness is strategic. Weakness is designed to keep you exactly where you are. Because weakness knows one thing. If it can keep you comfortable, it can keep you controlled. You have a choice. Comfort or control. Progress or procrastination. Identity or emotion. Weakness wants negotiation. Strength wants execution. And every day, you're choosing one. Stop negotiating. Start executing. How to break the cycle of self-negotiation. You don't defeat weakness by motivation. You defeat weakness by structure, by rules, by identity statements, by daily execution, no matter the mood. Here's your blueprint. 1. Create non-negotiable rules. Rules remove negotiation. Rules remove emotion. Rules remove excuses. For example, I train at 7 a.m. No discussion. I work 2 hours before touching my phone. I complete my top priority every day, tired or not. These rules are identity in action. You don't need their permission. You don't need your own permission. Your rules decide. You follow. That's the key. Stop negotiating. Start executing. 2. Shorten the gap between thought and action. Negation lives in the gap between "I should" and "I will." Shrink that gap. Act fast. Take the first step immediately. The longer you wait, the louder weakness becomes. The louder the doubts become. The louder the excuses become. Speed destroys negotiation. Action destroys resistance. You have a choice: delay or do. Stop negotiating. Start executing. 3. Train your identity daily. Identity is not built once. Identity is built repeatedly. Identity is built through consistent proof of who you say you are. Want to be disciplined? Act disciplined. Today, not tomorrow. Want to be focused? Remove distractions. Not later. Want to become unstoppable? Stop negotiating with anything that slows you down. Every action is a vote. Every execution is validation. Every refusal to negotiate is identity reinforcement. Stop negotiating. Start executing. 4. Shift from emotion-based decisions to standard-based decisions. Your emotions are unreliable. Your standards are unshakable. When you live by standards, your feelings no longer dictate your day. Your inner negotiator loses power. Your excuses lose oxygen. Your standards say, I act. Your identity says, I finish. Your behaviors say, I don't negotiate with weakness. You have a choice. Choose standards. Choose discipline. Choose identity. Stop negotiating. Start executing. Where this fits into your transformation. Every chapter before this led you to this moment. Everything you've learned means nothing if you keep negotiating with the weakest parts of yourself. Everything collapses if you let emotion outrank identity. You want a different life? Stop talking to your weakness. Stop listening to your excuses. Stop giving your feelings authority. You're building a new identity. Identity is destiny. Identity is power. Identity is freedom. And now that you've stopped negotiating with weakness, it's time to eliminate the other silent killer of discipline, wasted time. You killed negotiation. Now let's kill distraction. Chapter 9. Build a mind that does not break under pressure. Pressure doesn't break you. Pressure reveals you. That's the key. When life squeezes you, it's not exposing your weakness, it's exposing your preparation. Pressure is not the enemy. Pressure is the mirror. And every day, you're building a mind that either collapses under stress or becomes sharper because of it. You have a choice. You can train for pressure, or you can crumble under it. You can rehearse strength, or you can default to panic. You can build resilience, or you can hope life goes easy. But understand this reality: nothing great is built in comfort. Everything great is built under pressure. Look at the people you admire. Look at the ones who execute when it matters, who stay calm under chaos, who think clearly when everyone else is spiraling. They're not special. They're not superhuman. They just trained for the moments that others avoid. Their mind is rehearsed. Their responses are conditioned. Their composure is intentional. Stress tested. Pressure ready. Pressure reveals training. Think of athletes, soldiers, surgeons, people who face high-stakes environments every day. The reason they don't shake under pressure is simple. They already lived that moment 1,000 times in their mind. While others fear the challenge, they have rehearsed it. They have visualized it. They have practiced responses until calm becomes second nature. Pressure doesn't create chaos. Pressure reveals whether you trained for chaos. You have a choice: train now or break later. When someone rises under pressure, it's not magic. It's not luck. It's not natural talent. It's preparation. It's discipline. It's repetition. They practiced breathing under stress. They practiced clarity under chaos. They practiced action under discomfort. When the heat rises, they don't think, they execute. When the stakes increase, they don't panic, they shift gears. Because pressure is not a surprise to them. Pressure is familiar. Pressure is expected. Pressure is rehearsed. Stress tested. Pressure ready. Why your mind breaks under pressure? Your mind breaks because you never truly trained it. Not seriously. Not intentionally. Not consistently. You've trained comfort, not resilience. You've trained avoidance, not endurance. You've trained fear, not readiness. Every time you escape discomfort, you weaken your tolerance for it. Every time you dodge challenge, you amplify your fear of it. Every time you avoid stress, you increase the power it holds over you. You're not fragile. You're untrained. And you have a choice. You can stay untrained, or you can start conditioning your mind today. It's not about feeling overwhelmed. It's about building the discipline to stay stable anyway. It's not about eliminating pressure. It's about expanding your capacity to handle it. It's not about removing stress. It's about renaming it as training. That's the key. Stress tested. Pressure ready. Micro-stress training. The path to mental toughness. You don't build a resilient mind by waiting for big challenges. You build it through micro-stress training, Small, intentional doses of difficulty that expand your mental capacity. This is the opposite of self-sabotage. This is strategic hardship. This is controlled discomfort. It's how soldiers train. It's how athletes train. It's how elite performers train. And it's how you will train if you're serious about transformation. Here are the foundational microstress exercises that rewire your mind for pressure. 1. Cold exposure, discomfort on command. Cold showers, ice dips, temperature shocks. Not because they're trendy, not because they're fun, but because they force you to override your emotional resistance. When the cold hits your skin, your mind screams, "Stop." But you stay. You breathe. You endure. You teach your nervous system one powerful message. You are not in charge of me. I choose the response. This daily discipline builds confidence. It builds composure. It builds a resilient identity. That's the key. Stress tested. Pressure ready. 2. Time tasks, performing under deadlines. Most people panic under deadlines because they never practice them. They avoid urgency until urgency hits them like a brick. But time tasks force you to focus, act, and complete, without negotiation. Set a timer. Give yourself 20 minutes. Finish the task. No breaks. No distractions. No excuses. This builds speed. This builds clarity. This builds execution under pressure. And again, it reinforces the identity of someone who performs. Not someone who delays. Not someone who asks for permission. Not someone who folds. You have a choice. Create pressure intentionally or collapse under it accidentally. Stress tested. Pressure ready. 3. Early waking, a battle won before the day starts. Waking early isn't about the hour on the clock. It's about the discipline required to beat your own resistance. The first battle of the day is against your comfort. And when you win that battle, you start your day with momentum instead of guilt. You wake early not because you want to. You wake early because you said you would. You wake early because identity demands it. You wake early because discipline matters more than sleepiness. And that's the key. When you consistently win small battles, you build the confidence needed for big battles. Stress tested. Pressure ready. 4. Controlled challenge, one hard thing daily. Do one thing each day that requires effort, intention, and mental strength. One thing that pushes your limit by 1%. One thing that forces you to confront resistance voluntarily. This rewires your relationship with stress. Stress stops being the enemy. Stress becomes a training partner. Stress becomes familiar. Familiarity destroys fear. Preparation destroys panic. You're no longer shocked by pressure. You're shaped by it. Stress tested. Pressure ready. How pressure strengthens identity. Pressure turns discipline into identity. Pressure turns choices into character. Pressure turns actions into transformation. When you train under stress, your mind learns something powerful. I don't run. I respond. I don't panic. I prepare. I don't break. I adjust. And that identity becomes the foundation of an unbreakable mind. It's not about being fearless. It's about being trained. It's not about avoiding pressure. It's about welcoming it. It's not about avoiding life's storms. It's about expanding your capacity to stand inside them. You have a choice. You can stay breakable, or you can become pressure ready. Stress tested. Pressure ready. The transition. Everything you've done so far has prepared you for this chapter. Because once you build a mind that does not crack under pressure, the next step is to develop the ultimate weapon. A silent mind. A controlled mind. A deliberate mind. You trained your resilience. Now it's time to train your stillness. You mastered pressure. Now let's master silence. Chapter 10. Become the master, not the prisoner of your mind. Mastery is the highest level of mental control. Not comfort, not motivation, not positive thinking. Mastery. And mastery means one thing. You command your mind, or your mind commands you. There is no middle ground. There is no neutral zone. You are the master, or you are the prisoner. You have a choice. And that choice appears every morning when you wake up. Do you run your thoughts, or do your thoughts run you? Do you guide your attention, or does your attention scatter on autopilot? Do you direct your emotions, or do your emotions dictate your actions? That is the defining question of your life. Because master your mind, and you master your life. Ignore your mind, and it becomes your cage. That's the key. Ownership is the final stage. Every chapter in this audiobook has brought you here. Every discipline, every repetition, every confrontation with weakness, they all lead to this final level, ownership. Ownership means nothing happens in your inner world without your intention or your permission. Ownership means your thoughts don't wander. Your emotions don't hijack you. Your old patterns don't drag you back. Ownership means you stop blaming your past. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop blaming how you are. Because how you are is not destiny. How you are is training. How you are is identity by habit. How you are is the result of years of unconscious repetition. You have a choice. Stay the prisoner of old programming, or write the new code intentionally. It's not about perfection. It's about discipline. It's not about eliminating flaws. It's about practicing control. And that's the key. Master your mind, and you master your life. Why most people remain prisoners? Most people never reach mastery because they wait for change to feel good. They wait for clarity. They wait for certainty. They wait for the right moment. They wait for someone to tell them what to do. But here's the truth. You don't need their permission, not their approval, not their validation, not their applause. Because your mind is yours. Your life is yours. Your direction is yours. The prison is not built from walls. The prison is built from self-doubt, emotional reactivity, and mental laziness. The bars are your excuses. The lock is your lack of discipline. You have a choice. Break the lock, or hold it shut yourself. Master your mind, and you master your life. The three-part ritual of self-command. If you want to stop being a prisoner, you must install a daily practice of mental leadership. Not occasionally. Not when you feel like it. Single. Because repetition builds identity. Repetition builds wiring. Repetition builds mastery. This is the ritual. 3 steps. Simple. Direct. Non-negotiable. Step 1. Intention. Tell your mind where to go. Every morning, before the world touches you, you decide your direction. You don't wait for motivation. You don't wait for clarity. You create direction through intention. Sit still for 1 minute. Yes, 1 minute. No excuses. No, I don't have time. You have a choice. During that minute, ask yourself, what will I focus on today? Who am I choosing to be today? What behavior will define me today? Your mind needs direction the way your body needs oxygen. If you don't choose your focus, your fear will choose it for you. If you don't command your day, your distractions will command it for you. The mind follows the loudest voice. Make sure the loudest voice is yours. Master your mind, and you master your life. Step 2. Affirmation. Override the old programming. Affirmation isn't about hype. Affirmation is about identity installation. You repeat the identity you want until your brain accepts it as truth. This is not forced positivity. This is mental reprogramming. This is neural conditioning. This is the language of self-mastery. You don't say, I hope I get stronger. You say, I act with strength. You don't say, "I wish I was disciplined." You say, "I choose discipline." You don't say, "I want to be more confident." You say, "I trust myself and follow through." Identity is built from statements repeated and demonstrated. Affirmation is not magic, it's muscle, and repetition builds that muscle. You have a choice. Rewrite the inner script or keep living the old one. Master your mind, and you master your life. Step 3. Execution Review, the nightly debrief. Mastery is not built through experience. Mastery is built through reflection on experience. Every night, you perform a simple audit. What did I do well today? Where did my mind drift? Where did emotion override discipline? Where did I choose strength? Where did I choose weakness? This is not about shame. This is about awareness. And awareness is power. Because what you review, you improve. What you measure, you master. What you acknowledge, you can correct. 5 minutes. That's all it takes. 5 minutes to close the loops of the day. 5 minutes to update your mental operating system. 5 minutes to say, "Tomorrow I level up." You don't need their permission. You don't need perfect circumstances. You just need discipline. You just need honesty. You just need consistency. Master your mind, and you master your life. When you practice this, everything changes. When you live with intention, your days stop being random. When you speak with identity, your actions follow automatically. When you review with honesty, you grow with speed. Internal chaos dissolves. Mental noise decreases. Emotional reactivity weakens. Focus sharpens. Discipline becomes default. Confidence becomes natural. And over time, slowly, quietly, powerfully, you rise above the person you used to be. Not because life got easier, but because you became stronger. That's the key. You have a choice every single day. Be the master or be the prisoner. Lead your mind or follow your impulses. Design your identity or inherit your limitations. Master your mind, and you master your life. The transition. You reach the final stage of mental control. You built focus. You built discipline. You built precision. You built resilience. And now, you built mastery. But there's one more level. The level where everything comes together. The level where you integrate the lessons, the habits, the identity, and the discipline into one unstoppable truth. You mastered your mind. Now let's master your life. Conclusion. Everything you want begins in one place, your mind. Your peace, your power, your discipline, your confidence. None of it comes from luck, talent, or circumstance. It comes from taking full control of your inner world. You learned how wandering thoughts weaken you. You learned how discipline reshapes you. You learned how focus, attention, and emotional precision rebuild your identity. You learned that your environment programs you, that your reactions define you, and that pressure only breaks the untrained mind. Now the choice is yours. Will you let your mind run you, or will you take command? Will you continue living on autopilot, or will you step into mastery? The moment you decide, everything changes. So choose right now, control your mind. Control your actions. Control your life. Your future begins the second you take the throne in your own head. Start today.